Nobody wants to die. Kinda like how nobody wants to play League of Legends or wants to scroll through Twitter, activities which fall into this category I've just created called bad ideas. So naturally, when I saw the trailer for a game about a time manipulating alcoholic, I couldn't help but be drawn to it, and contrary to what you're probably thinking, it was actually a pretty bad idea. Nobody Wants to Die identifies itself as a detective game, which is fine. It's 2024. You can identify yourself as a race car, and no one will give a singular shit until we pay to see you race. Putting the detective aspect on hold for a bit, this game isn't really a game at all. Unless you consider piecing the fragmented memories of a desolate man's past back together while he falls into madness a game, then yeah, I guess this is the perfect game. This game feels more like a playable detective movie, where you've been given a chance to help save the director from writing a dog shit story. However, as fate would have it, your dog has nuclear diarrhea, and you just ran out of biodegradable shit bags. The year is 2329, and things could not look more grim for the citizens of New York. Poverty stretches as far as the eye can see. The human body itself has become a marketing campaign, and political leaders treat current events good or bad as a means to further their faction's agenda. Does this sound kind of familiar? This story is told from the perspective of Detective James Cara, a veteran criminal investigator, who's recently been relieved of all official police duties, but in typical hard-boiled detective fashion, finds his way onto a case anyways. It's also worth mentioning, minor detail, James is a paranoid schizophrenic, and just so we're clear, it's not like the cool kind of schizophrenia that gives you powers, but is more so the kind that repeatedly shows you that 10 you fumbled 2 weeks ago. He's insane, and the game doesn't try to hide that from you. So what do you think some of the consequences of playing as a mentally unsound man with a troubled past and bottomless whiskey flask are? Erectile dysfunction. Don't get to the tech shit. During this game, I truly felt like I didn't investigate anything. Most of the investigation is done by James and his middle-aged partner, while you move James from point A to point A and a half. There's no objectively right way to help players figure things out. And trust me, I'm a certified dumbass. I appreciate the help, but I would have liked a little more responsibility when it came to discovering and utilizing clues. The game has some insanely cool gadgets you use to pick apart crime scenes, but instead of making you figure out what to use and when, it simplifies it with one button. And I know for a fact one of you dumbasses is already typing, "Oh, that's just nitpicking, Clutch. You're just a bitch, Clutch. Go back to 100-day content, dude." And while there may be some degree of truth to all of those statements, giving players this kind of assistance for the sake of convenience just didn't make me feel good in a game like this. It really does seem like at some point during the story, the game decides that you are the alcohol-impaired schizo James is, which, I mean, is cool, assuming the boot fits, but I would have liked to at least try the damn thing on. I might secretly be Cinderella or some shit. For the record, I am in no way qualified to say what makes a good detective game, but I really do enjoy them. They stimulate my thinking noodle in ways that most genres can't. Instead of doing miscellaneous tasks that often mean nothing when it comes to the grand scheme of things, detective games have this larger mystery that ties those same tasks together. Sure, I may be doing some wacky outlandish shit like manipulating the laws of space-time, but that's for the sake of the mystery, not just because mommy MILFBot told me to. The weaker detective features are, for lack of better words, disappointing. But that's only one part of this game. Granted, it's the part I signed up for, but to no one's surprise, I don't think this is Detective Game of the Year. And despite my God-given talent to shit on anything that someone else might enjoy, I don't believe this game is bad. It's just different. A large part of this game happens not within the world you're placed in, but instead takes place within the mind of James, who happens to be within the world you're placed in. Sometimes. Following some questionable events in 2137, every citizen was granted the right to immortality, except it's not really immortality at all and is more like memory preserving. Look, don't hate me for this. I'm not even sure if I fully grasp what's going on, but I'm gonna try my best to explain it so I can still call this piece of shit video a review. Recently, a substance known as Ichorite was discovered to make the transfer of human minds possible, essentially prolonging one's existence by encoding their brain onto a piece of radioactive spaghetti, which sounds pretty cool. However, it doesn't take an Olive Garden enthusiast to know that with every pot of spaghetti comes a less than proportionate amount of meatballs. I don't think I'm doing a good job of explaining this. The main problem with copying the contents of a person's mind without replicating their body means, stay with me here, you will eventually run out of bodies, leaving the question of where in the hell do you get more? yeah, it's not so cool anymore. One of the additional drawbacks to extending the warranty on one's life in this way is the risk of desynchronization, a sort of futuristic version of crashing out, with symptoms ranging from slight nausea to acute schizophrenia. Hey, we know someone like that. James, despite looking 110, is actually 120 years old, meaning this body is not his own and puts him at risk of all of the before mentioned side effects, making for a gameplay experience that resembles a grown man talking to his imaginary girlfriend in places only real women would be. Instead of being a detective game, I say this game shines more at being a psychological adventure, with the small detective aspects being focused on figuring out what's real. Everything about this game is ambiguous. In fact, while playing, it becomes increasingly more difficult to determine if what you're seeing is reality or some insane form of psychosis that comes with the desync issues James is dealing with. Contrary to most games that leave you with some form of closure, this game doesn't believe in answering any of the questions it poses for you. The only answers you get are answers that you make up. The game creates this story that, while it has a set course, still gives you the space to interpret what that course means to you. It dawned on me about halfway through this story that something was off. I mean, clearly body snatching isn't the most humane dystopian concept, but that's inherently obvious. This feeling became more apparent when going through James's apartment and finding out more about his previous lives, which shifted my perspective from a point of judgment to one of introspection. James is a person that for years goes along with the system in place. This system being living life by society standards, trying to accomplish or create anything significant enough to outlive him, and then doing it all over again. I think it's even safe to say that he trusts this cycle as the natural way of things and finds some form of comfort in it. Until he doesn't. The abnormal conditions surrounding this case James takes, along with the state of his body, derails him from any course he thought his current life would have taken, pretty much forcing him to reevaluate what he believes in as he walks this more than blurry line that separates right from wrong. I know I'm being obnoxiously vague when it comes to specific events that happen within the story, and half of that's because I think it warrants your playthrough. The other half, admittedly, just doesn't know how to describe it. What Nobody Wants to Die creates is this reality that appears different but feels nearly identical to the one we live in. A reality where fighting against the current to chase after what you believe in feels pointless most times, and despite trying your hardest to make something happen, there's no guarantee that anything will. Holy shit, dude, I'm depressing myself talking like this. I gotta stop ending videos on such a bleak note. Jesus Christ. I'm Clutch, and if you want to check out some of the other stuff I make, I promise, it doesn't always end like this, and consider subscribing for less depressing stuff in the future. I hope. Laters.